Mic'd up.
Hey, welcome everybody on a beautiful Monday morning, an afternoon from the Bay Area, the Tri Valley. Not as beautiful as it was a couple days ago. But anyway, you're listening to Bip Roberts, Bips Blips, the Mic'd Up app, where you can hear me every Monday at 4 o'clock. And as I said, we're coming from the lovely Tri Valley up here in Northern California on a day where, as of yesterday, it was 88 degrees. Today is 55 degrees and rainy. So what can you say about that? Weatherman knows best. It's one of those days. It's Monday, but let's get right into it. A couple topics we'll talk about today. So far in this year, we've got in the MLB, we've got an average of 243 as of May 1st. Last year at this time, the major league average was 231. Stolen base attempts are up 749 attempts. Time of game is down 2 hours and 36 minutes compared to 3 hours and 3 minutes. A couple things we're going to talk about in this upcoming version of the Bips Blips. We're going to talk about how Major League Baseball and the offensive game has really turned up. We're going to talk about some old school guys I used to play with, Tom Browning being one of them. And we're just going to talk about what I saw this weekend, A's versus the Reds, and all the memories I had. Hey, and welcome back to Bips Blips on this beautiful May 1st, Monday at 4:03 here on the West Coast. Today we're going to be talking about a couple things, as I said in the open. And it's just one of those things where Major League Baseball has made a lot of changes this year. I think a lot for the good. It really helps with the timing of the game. Major League Baseball wanted to get the games down to under 3 hours because last year when you had I guess a 3 hour and 3 minute game, it was from the TV side, it was a little long. I mean, but the game of baseball wasn't made with a timer, so we just had to deal with it at that time. Commissioner Manfred wanted to make some different changes to the game. He implemented this in the minor leagues. He implemented the time and then he also implemented bigger bases. He also said, hey, you know what? We're going to bring this to the major league. So with the pitch timer and the ability for guys to start stealing bases, we've seen a lot of things in this game that we hadn't seen in the past years, and that being the attempts on stolen bases. Along with the shift no longer in existence when it comes to the big leagues, guys are getting more hits, averages are going up, guys are scoring more runs. The offensive game in the major leagues has just improved tremendously. Now, instead of guys lifting the baseball, they're actually going back to the pure science of hitting, using all fields. And that's been great to see. I've just really enjoyed watching these guys perform because I knew they were better than just a fly out, a strikeout, or a walk, and then stand on first base when they got to walk. No, this is a very athletic game, and we're starting to see the athleticism come out. So there are a lot of guys right now who are doing very well. And as I was sitting here doing research, I looked at and I see where Luis is hitting 438, Matt Chapman is hitting 384, Ronald Acuna Jr. I want you to hear that name because I'm going to be saying that name over and over and over. Cunha Jr. is hitting 363, had a couple hits today, hit a home run 468 feet in New York. I watched that game live. He had 3 hits in the first game. He left the second game after being hit in the shoulder by a pitch. But this kid is looking like the old guy, not the guy who had the ACL injury, but the Ronald Acuna Jr., who broke into the major leagues as one of the better athletes that we have seen in a long time. In the fourth spot, you got Thairo Estrada from the San Francisco Giants, and then Brandon Marsh. He rounds out the top five. In home runs, you got Max Muncy, who the shift definitely killed last year. I saw him hitting the shift so many times between the first baseman and the second baseman when you had that guy out there in the short right field. Hit a lot of balls to him last year. Pete Alonso's got 11. Patrick Wisdom, Chicago Cubs. I watched him when they came to town. He swung the bat very well. He's got 11. Devers over there in Boston, he's got 10. Brett Rooker, one of our guys, 28-year-old rookie, is now making his name known here in the Bay Area. He hit one yesterday, just a beautiful swing. And at 28, he's in the prime, what I believe, of understanding who he is and then going out there and getting results on the field. Runs batted in, Adolis Garcia's got 30. Randy Rosarena's got 28. Peter Alonso's got 28. Devers got 27. Yordan Alvarez with 27. Then you start talking about hits. Ronald Acuna Jr., 41, Luis Arias. He's got a 39. Nico Horner. That's my Oakland homeboy. Got a chance to interview him when the Cubs came to town. He's got game. Bryson Stott of the Phillies got 39. Chapman again is up there with 38. Stolen bases, Acuna Jr. got 13. Cedric Mullins got 11. Esteury Ruiz, our center fielder who came over in the Milwaukee trade, he's got 11. Kid can flat out play. And you got Bay over there with Pittsburgh. He can fly. Oh, man, I watched him over the weekend. He can run. And Jazz Chisholm, he's got 11 over there with the Miami Marlins. Garrett Cole, Kershaw, McClanahan, and Joe Ryan, they all have 5. Zach Galen over there in Arizona's got 4. Earned run average, Sonny Gray has got a 0.77. Wow. Garrett Cole, 1.11. Justin Steele, 1.48. Luis Castillo with Seattle, 1.82. And Shohei Ohtani, 1.85. So you start looking at this, and the game of baseball is in good hands, I think. I know a lot of people didn't agree with all the different changes and said, hey, maybe they should have waited another year for this because here we are. We're just implementing it in the big leagues and we haven't had a trial run. Well, spring training was the trial run and now we're off and running. So I really enjoy what I'm watching. I got a chance to watch the A's and the Reds over the weekend. I covered that 3-game series, and Cincinnati Reds came in swinging the bats. Let me tell you something. I was proud of those boys, man. You know, being a former Red and all, I was proud of those boys because that first game they had 8 guys had 2 hits apiece, and they just swung the bats. And then following Saturday, they swung the bats again, and they were out to a 2-0 when it comes to 3-game series. Had won the first 2 and was looking to sweep yesterday, but the A's decided not in front of 18,000, 15,000 kids on Little League Day. The A's came out and got a walk-off win with Esteury Ruiz getting a big hit at the end. Reds had a chance to win that game, had bases loaded, no outs, couldn't score late in that game, turned around and bit them on the backside. But it was a good ball game, and it was played 72, 75 degrees out there. Just a beautiful day. Chance for the Reds to sweep, it just didn't happen. But it was a good ball game, and it was a good series again, because being a former Red, when you come in and you play the A's, who at that time had won only 4 games, you're supposed to win ball games like that. And Cincinnati really did that. They got some nice young players on that team. A nice little bullpen. I thought Law yesterday threw the ball extremely well. So they got a nice little team. It's just a matter of can they come together. And now that we're in May, everybody should feel a little comfortable, whether you're a pitcher or a hitter or whatever it may be. This is the time you start to, after you hit rock bottom, you start to rise to the top. So let's see how that plays out. Over here in Oakland, where I've been covering games for the last maybe 10 years now, our team is just trying to figure it out. Oh man, it's been rough. At one time, we were 4-25, and then 4-26. Now we're 5-26. So there's a long way to go. But as manager Markatse said yesterday, it's about the work you put in, and then it's about the encouragement that the team gets from the coaches, and then it's about finding ways to get results on the field. And yesterday they played a great ball game. Hopefully, with the day off today, they can get it together and pick up where they left off tomorrow as they fly out of town. I was just looking, and you start looking around the league, and you say, okay, well, not every team gets off to a good start. And April is usually tough for the teams back east because of the weather and whatever it may be. But the only team that seemed to jump off the radar right now is the Tampa Bay Rays. And they've played some great baseball all season long. So right now you have to give them the tip when it comes to the power rankings because they've done it against everybody and they continue to do it against everybody. They have a team from 1 to 9, a pitching staff from 1 through 5, and a great bullpen. And from every facet of the game right now, they're playing extremely well. How long can they continue to do this? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But when it comes to consistency, they're the most consistent team in baseball, and everybody's chasing after them. And I think it's interesting because this year, with every team playing every team, basically, you get a chance to see who the best team is early, or should I say during the regular season. And right now, Tampa Bay is one of those teams who I consider to be the best, but also one of the most overlooked. And one of the most underviewed was when I looked at the stadium, and it looked like the Oakland Stadium. It's kind of empty. It's kind of sad, man. Good baseball, great team. I think they were playing Houston over one weekend, and they just didn't draw many fans, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully, when they get a new stadium, and hopefully they get a new stadium, and it's in Tampa, that people will come out and see them play. Not in the far distance, I have the Yankees and the Cleveland Indians on. That should be a pretty good ball game. Both teams are playing pretty good, trying to figure it out. And I noticed that ball, a base hit was just hit up the middle. And last year there was a guy standing there. How many balls were hit to the up the middle, right over second base, and there was a guy standing there last year? Quite a few, right? That's what I like about not having a shift. Now you have to have athleticism, shortstop, and athleticism at second, and athleticism in center. You have to have good foot speed and quickness now, because if you don't have that and the ball gets through, it could hurt you in the end. Your team could lose because your guys don't have the same amount of coverage as the other guys. Your range is not as good as the other team's range. They make that play and that ball goes through on your side. So it's a cat and mouse game now. It's about that athleticism. And I was watching the game yesterday, and I want to make sure that I get this correct here. The A's and Cincinnati. Actually, this whole series I was watching it, and it was just funny to me because I started looking at certain players on the Reds, and they were reminding me of certain players. And I think the one that I looked at that reminded me of somebody. Let's see if I can pull it up because I want to make sure I get it right. I gotta make sure I get it right. Let's see here. On the Cincinnati side, he's probably when I say this, he's gonna say, "Hey, no way!" But Jose Barrero, he just reminded me of Lark. He reminded me of Lark. He had that Superman chin, that good look. That just that strong chin, and his helmet kind of fit like B Lark. And I was like, man, and he has some movements like B Lark. I said, man, I wonder if B Lark is working with him. So if you out there and you know somebody that can talk to B Lark, ask him, has he been working with this Barrero kid? Because he looked pretty good. He was sitting down in the lineup, but he looks like he's got some talent where he could move up in the lineup. He's got good footwork and looks good as shortstop. So I just wanted to throw that out there because these guys went out there, Jonathan India and Kevin Newman. Kevin Newman from Poway. That's where I used to live, out there in Poway. And so he probably went to Poway High where my kids went to school. It's a good powerhouse when it comes to baseball. I probably saw him a couple years when I was down there working this little. I had this machine. It was called um, Strikeout, and it was actually the cutoff man. We changed to the cutoff man, and there was a contraption used to catch balls. And I took it down there to Poway High and let them use it. They ended up buying two of them, so they probably have it. He's probably used the cutoff man, and that's probably why he's gotten to the big leagues because you can use this and you can get more reps in less time than if you have a person, and you don't need anyone else to work with you. So you catch it. There's a square inside the cage. It's like a netting, and once it goes into the netting, it goes down into a bucket of balls. So if you're catching balls and you throw it to the net, it goes right into the bucket. You take the bucket, you give it to whoever's hitting your balls, and you continue to keep your workout going. So within a minute, you may get, if possible, 50, 55 ground balls. That's kind of what you need. Man, I watched this kid, Jake Fraley, swing the bat the other day. He got a nice swing. He got a real nice swing from the left side. Got a big hit. He got a hit the other day. Reds came back on the A's, and it was two men on. He pinched hit, and he got one of the most freakiest hits I've ever seen. Pull a ball towards first base. It hits the base, but first of all, it breaks his bat. So the bat is following the ball. The ball hits first base and bounces away from the first baseman, and 2 runs score. And the Reds end up winning that game. Oh, it was funny, man. I couldn't believe it. We were sitting on set ready to do the game and interview an A's player because it looked like the A's were going to win. And lo and behold, the way baseball is played, you can't count a win until the last out. and A's couldn't get the last out that day. It was the weirdest win I've seen. But when you're 4-25, now 5-26, you've seen many ways that a game can be lost, and that was a little different that day. So that was pretty cool on the red side how they came back. I mean, I didn't lose either way because being a red and then being an A's, I couldn't lose either way. It's just hard to talk about a loss. So, but anyway, it's been one of those weeks where so many things have been happening. And let me just tell you a quick story. I've been dealing with this. I think it's called tinnitus. When you get the ringing in your ear, and I've been dealing with that a lot lately. So I don't know what's going on with that, but at some point in time, I start to hear these frequencies. Sometimes I was thinking, like, where is it coming from? The first week, I looked around the house thinking, where is that coming from? I called people over to look for the sound, and wherever I went, the sound followed me. I started thinking maybe that's between my ears, and it was between my ears. So pray for me, guys, because I need it. I'm able to sleep well, but I sleep often because I don't sleep as long as I should during the night. I don't know if you have that. If anybody has that, send me a response to that, and then I can maybe try it. Maybe it'll go away. All right, welcome back to Bips Blips on May 1st, 2023. Wouldn't you know it? It seems like it was 1992 and I was in a Reds uniform, but now it's 2023 and I'm working for the Oakland A's in San Francisco studios. So we go to San Francisco to do the Oakland A's games, which is in Oakland, but the studio's in San Francisco. So I did 10 straight, and it was cool. It's just a ride over to San Francisco because I live in the Valley. It's about 38-minute ride each way. So we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go to some live feeds and go to some live questions here. All right. So let's see what's going on. Let's go to Rick.
Late last year, we lost one of our Hall of Famers, Tom Browning, and he was a teammate of yours in 1993. Can you tell us a little bit about what you remember of Browning, and particularly the time when he went across the street at Wrigley Field and went onto the rooftop in 1993, and what that was like for the team, and how you remember that all going down? Thank you.
Man, Tom Browning, and I said that in my open. We were going to talk about that because I saw your question there. And I wanted to give that some time. What a great guy. What a great teammate. What a guy who had empathy for his teammates, was always there to root and cheer them on. Not only that, but every time it was his turn to take the ball, he took the ball. And I just remember him, once he got on that mound, he was just energy. And he didn't need a pitch timer. He got the ball, got a sign, and went to the plate. And I just love that about him, playing defense behind him. It seemed as if we made plays behind him that we couldn't make behind anyone else because he kept us on our toes. And he threw strikes, a fastball, slider, a little cutter, threw a changeup. But he was that guy that you could depend on to go out there and find his tempo. And I played with him for 2 years there, 92, 93. And I enjoyed him. And I remember the day that he went over to across the street from Wrigley in his uniform, and they caught him on camera. And it was kind of typical because I think in 93 we were going through some managerial changes, and I think it was a one man protest. And he was a starter anyway, so it really didn't matter. But I think it was a one man protest. He said, I'm going to go across the street and watch the game from the roof over there. Everyone always wanted to do that. We all wanted to do that. But he had the guts to go do it. And he did it. Colorful character, just great person. Um, I was on the field. I was playing for San Diego in 94. I was at second base and he was on the mound. I remember him throwing to the plate and I heard a loud pop. And I didn't know what it was. And I realized afterwards it was his arm. He broke a bone in his arm, making a pitch to the plate. And I instantly said out there, man, game is over. We don't need to play anymore. Because I was just thinking about him. He wasn't my teammate at the time, but he had this way about him that it was more than just baseball. And I think I knew that. I think I realized that's when he was special to all of us based on who he was. He was not a loud, rah, rah guy. It didn't have to be me, 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 me. He was always in a, he didn't have to be the most joyful guy, but you could always go up to him and you eventually just had a laugh together. And he always had a smile on his face. I just know when I heard about his passing, I was really saddened by that. Because the last time I saw him, we were in Haines City. I think he was really thinking about coming back and pitching. I was with the Royals at that time. So that's Haines City was the Royals spring training site. And I saw him and Tommy was quiet. He wasn't really a loud guy. And I think he was debating on should he or what should he do at that time. But he didn't sign with us. And he kind of just went on into the sunset, so to speak, because I didn't see him anymore. I was hoping that he did sign with us because Tim Belcher was there, and then would have Tom Browning there, some guys I played with in '92, where we had a really good team. It would have been good to reunite with Tom Browning. But he had some good years. He did. I remember he's one of those guys that he was 15-9 in that 1990 season. And then when they went to the World Series, he was 2-1 against the A's. He did well against them. I mean, 6 times he won 14 games and led the league in starts. 4 times. A couple times he had 225 innings. I think about maybe 6, 7 times. So he was solid. He was that solid lefty. Ironically, I hit my first home run off of him in Cincinnati in '86. I was so happy about that. And it was in Cincinnati. And Tom Browning was the first guy I ever hit a home run off of. That was cool. But we've had a few guys pass away. Kamar Barti passed away last year. It's a good friend of mine. And so many others. And I think one of the ones who passed away alone a little while back that got me, like Tom got me, was when Tony passed away. Tony Gwynn passed away. So, I mean, we're not going to be here forever, but his legacy, all these guys' legacy lives forever. These are my frat boys. These are my teammates. These were like guys like family to me. So when I hear Tom Browning's name, I think of good things. And I know he's gone on to bigger and better things. He's not here on this planet here, going through all this stuff we're going through right now. And I don't have to start getting into all of that, but I'm sure he's in a better place because he had a good heart and he cared about people. Yeah. So when I saw that question, I wanted to get to these questions earlier because I wanted to give that some time because he deserves that. That's the kind of person he was. So I hope I did him right. Loved the man. He was a great Cincinnati Red. And I'm sure that if you spoke to those guys who played with him, they never had a bad thing to say about him. All right. So that was my guy. Next.
So after watching the World Classic and definitely watching the games with the Giants in Mexico, I'm pretty much thinking international ball might be what saves MLB the next couple of years. So what cities do you think you would like to see games in? Japan, more our teams going over and playing their teams, or even just, MLB having games over in other countries more than just, the United States and Canada.
Well, that's a good question because we saw the turnout last night in Mexico City for the Giants and the Padres. One of my former teams, the Padres and the Giants, I've covered them as well, being up here in the Bay Area. So we actually cover the Giants and the A's here up in the Bay Area in the same studios. One is California and the other is Bay Area, but it's the same studio, the same television station. So we were watching those ball games, and it was just one of those where it was just an exciting thing. I think when you start playing, out the country, you see a different type of fan. Just just so much energy and all type of things going on in the stands where here in Oakland we have drums and things like that, but in so many other stadiums you don't have that. It's just a different type of culture anytime you take the game out of the states. And Mexico was just awesome. I thought that was so much fun. And then the elevation where it seemed like it was home run derby. Them guys were leaving back to back, back to back, back to back. They just had fun. If I'm a hitter, I'm thinking maybe the ball doesn't break here like it does down there at sea level. And so you throw me a slider and it just spins. So we call that the cement mixer. It's just spinning and boom, it gets hit out the yard. I think that's fun. But wherever, I think Major League Baseball does a great job when it comes to just deciding where they're going to go and take the game outside the country. So we'll have to wait and see. Where would I like them to go? Probably go down to Puerto Rico or maybe play in Japan. Just maybe to go to the UK. I don't know, wherever there's a nice fan base for baseball and countries that really love the game. I think that's where you really want to go because they will appreciate it, as we saw in Mexico. How boy, oh boy, did they appreciate that. And then did you see the Padres uniforms? Very bright and cheery. And then after the game, they had the pinata inside the clubhouse and they were tearing the pinata up. They just enjoyed that, man. It looked like a lot of fun. So wherever baseball decides to go, I'm with it as long as the fan base is excited for it, just like we saw here in Mexico. So, yeah.
Hello, Bip. Jim here. Sorry to hear about that tinnitus. I know it can be bad. It runs in my family. Fortunately, I don't have it much, but good luck with it. Anyway, on the rules. I liked hearing you go through all the rule changes and a lot of questions about the rules last week. Anything improving or adaptations we know about in the last week? Thanks.
Well, I think what I saw when we are talking about things that happen at the plate to a hitter and he needs more time, I think we saw the umpires really starting to see and understand that. If you get jammed by a ball and you need a little time for the bees to clear your hands, they'll give you that time. Or you get hit by a pitch that where you swung and it hits your foot, they give you more time for that now. Um, I still think some guys are getting caught with the violation at the plate because they're forgetting how much time they have and they're going through their regular routine and then they get in the box and now it's a violation. I saw that a couple times this week. Saw that in the Red series that I just watched. And the thing about it is it happened and it was a strike three. That's the part you can't take the bat out of the kid's hands. You can't do that. It happens. That's a part of the rules now. I don't like that rule. But what can you do if that's the rule? And how do you get around that when it comes to a strike three? Strike one, okay, great. Strike two, okay. But strike three, it's taking the bat out of the kid's hand. That's the one I don't like. I have no problem with no shift. The problem I also have is with these base runners and base stealers. You have 749 attempts, as I alluded to earlier. And it's all because the pitchers are not really throwing the first, maybe once or twice. I've even noticed that the pitchers are not even looking at the base runner. Base runner gets to second, pitchers are not even looking back at the runner. So now you have more attempts at third base as well. And third base is the easiest base to steal because you get a bigger lead. Why wouldn't you look the runner back or look at the runner, stop the runner, and then go to the plate? I'm sure catchers are sitting back behind the plate going, man, I don't have a chance. Because if you see 749 attempts in the first month, we're probably going to see that again the second month, and the third month, and the fourth month. We're going to see a record number of attempts this year. And probably a lot of guys getting 20 bases or more. Guys you never thought would get 20 bases are probably still 20 bases. But I don't have an issue with anything other than probably the pitch clock. I still think it rushes some pitchers when the game starts to move fast. And I still think it catches certain hitters when they're trying to slow the game down. And that's what you want to do. You want to slow the game down. I just believe that right now in May, guys are going to start to calm down and they're going to start having better at bats. April is one of those times when you're trying to figure things out. You're not feeling as comfortable as you should be, or you can get to. But I think in May, you start to calm down and understand what you're doing. And now you start having a routine of how you go about it. As long as you're putting in the work, you don't have to rush. Things happen naturally. So I expect guys to start picking it up in May. And we'll see. We'll talk about that. All right. All right.
Your 1992 Reds team lost out to the Braves by 8 games despite winning 90 games. What do you think was missing from the Reds team that year that could have pushed you to the division title?
Wow. Man, when I think about that season and where we were actually 10 games up. And then we lost that lead. And I think one of the big games where it kind of started to turn around on us was in New York. We were playing the Mets and we were winning a ball game. And I remember our closer, Big Dibs, came in, and in that game, he didn't have a good game. And he gave up, I think, a game winning hit. And he came in and just tore up the Coke machine. And he was really upset about that. I mean, things like that happen. But though that was a game we should have won. And I think that's why he was so upset. And then when we played the Braves head up, what happened is the Braves got extremely hot. I think when you look up that second half of the season, they may have lost 6 or 7 games. They did not lose. And every time we lost, they won. And so they caught us, it seemed like, with the blink of an eye. And we stumbled a little bit. And we just couldn't run with them. So I don't think it was more of us needing something. It was a superhuman effort by the Atlanta Braves. They were, when I think about how good and how well they played that second half of the season, they caught fire. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I just realize and remember that I sat there on a daily basis saying, it seems like every time we lose, they win. And when we win, they win. And they were a second half team for about 10 years. And we knew they were a second half team. And we knew that they were going to come on, but we didn't realize they were going to come on that strong. And we had a great team. We won over 90 games. We had all facets of the game were covered in 92. I think we had a few injuries, and I think I had to move around, play second, play third, play center, play left. I think I moved around a lot based on some guys being a little injured, times like that. So I think that may have been something that kind of held us back a little bit, but we played well. I mean, Lou Piniella led us in the right direction. That was the year Lou and Dibs got into that brawl in the clubhouse. I don't know if you remember that, but people were showing me that all weekend. I don't know why. I guess because the Reds came to town, they showed me that. They showed me the 10 for 10. They just everything. They showed me running into the wall in Atlanta. They showed all of that. See, and that's another thing that happened. I remember we were in Atlanta for a big series in the first game, and I was in center. Justice hit a ball to center, and I thought I could catch it. I hadn't played much center, but wherever Lou said, he said, Lou will tell, can you play this? Yeah, I can play that, Lou. Just put me in there, Lou. I got you. And I remember Justice hit that ball, and I thought I had it. And as soon as ball touched glove, I had face first into the wall, and it literally broke my neck. And I think we lost all 3 games that series because I didn't play the next 2. And so it was games like that head to head where we couldn't beat those guys. And even if we were ahead in the game, late in the game, they would come back and beat us. So it wasn't what we needed. It was how good they were, and we couldn't stop them when we needed to stop them. See, but our team was good enough to beat anybody that year. And then we won a lot of games. So I don't know if it's what we needed. We needed to stop them when we needed to stop them. It's what we needed. And I don't know if one individual could as good as they played. So.
Hi, Bip. What are some of the things that hitters do preseason and in season to adjust to the new higher velocities? Seems like everybody can handle 95 now. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the thing that I kind of, when I look at it and I realize the things you have to do to slow the ball down. And it first starts in your mind. You have to be able to slow everything down because if you have your mind on quick twitch, everything speeds up. So the easiest way to slow everything down is to get on the batting tee. And therefore the ball's not moving. You can go through your whole process and you can get through the swings and the tee don't lie. When you make solid contact, the ball jumps off of it according to where you have the tee set up, whether it be away, down the middle, inside, up and in, up and away. All four corners of the strike zone is what you set and how you set your tee up so that you have your swing for all parts of the zone. And then you work it from your back leg, where now you're letting the ball travel to your front leg, where if you get a breaking ball, it speeds up your bat. But you have to find a way to slow it down because guys are bringing it. I mean, people ask me all the time, you guys didn't have anyone throw that hard back then, did you? Well, I played with two guys with Cincinnati who threw the ball 95 plus. One was Rob Dibble, another was Norm Charlton. They threw the ball extremely hard. Tim Belcher could throw the ball extremely hard. And so around the league, there were guys who could throw the ball extremely hard, but their job was to go 7 innings in. Now these guys go 4 in the third, 5 in the third, and that's a great outing. Where our guys, to them, that wasn't a great outing, but the game has changed. 5 innings pitch. Hey, these guys, they're happy with that. Hey, I went 5. You went 5? Huh. We need you to go 7. How about 8? Tom Brown and those guys went 9. Greg Maddox went 9. Smoltz and those guys went 9. Dwight Gooden and those guys, they would go 9. Their goal was to go 9 and get a complete game. Game is different now. So these guys go out there and they throw as hard as they can for as long as they can. So they're bringing it 95 plus. And these guys do throw hard. I watch them. I see how hard they throw. The one thing that differs from our generation and their generation is our guys had command of their pitches to location. We watch Maddox and how he used his two-seamer and how it moved. You watch Smoltz and how he used that slider, that fastball, set up his slider, and how the Braves would get 2 inches outside because they commanded that on the outside part of the plate. And it was just that way around the league. It was that way. So Pedro and Martinez and those guys, they threw extremely hard. But we as hitters, we wanted to use the opposite field more than pull. What we start seeing with these guys throwing extremely hard is guys trying to pull that. And it wouldn't be to the location where you could pull. So Tony Gwynn used to teach us, let the ball travel, stay inside it, and drive it hard the other way. Fight off inside, get them back out over the plate, and then your swing will work naturally. So that's how we slowed it down. We did all our work before the game so that we didn't have to think during the game. It was about reaction then. And I remember facing Sid Fernandez of the Mets. I was hitting right-handed. He's a lefty. He threw me a pitch kind of up and away, up in the strike zone, and I pulled it into the seats in left field. I didn't try to do that. It was a reaction. Sid threw hard too. All these guys threw hard. But it's just a reaction. You see the ball and you have this perfect swing for that pitch. You make solid contact and the ball jumps. We didn't have many guys with this, what do you call it? Lift and separate, swinging up at the ball. We swung down to create back speed for distance, which gave us a shorter swing. So if you look at our generation, our era, most guys try to hit hard line drives, hard ground balls, eventually getting into one and driving it into the gap. So that's why our swings were shorter, which means we could have hit, it didn't matter how hard you threw. we were going to be able to hit that. So I'm not worried about if our generation could hit 95 plus to 100. I know we could. I definitely know we could. Because again, our skills were about using the entire field, slowing the game down, but above all, being calm in the box to slow your mind down. And I think that's what baseball is all about. How can you slow the game down? And I think we were able to do that. I mean, you think about all the great players of my era. I'll let you think about that because I can name on every team great players. And then it wasn't you come from AAA hitting 250. It was you come from AAA hitting 330 or above. See? So different era, different generation. All right. Hopefully I answered that question. Lee.
Hey, Bip, do you ever think that Major League Baseball will have a major league team in Mexico? Thanks.
Well, that remains to be seen. I think we still have some cities here that need Major League Baseball. I first would like to have Montreal get their team back. Then you got a Nashville group. You got a Salt Lake City group. You got a group in Las Vegas who wants a team, and they're trying to steal our team right now. They're in negotiations, but I don't know how that's going to work. I don't even want to talk about that right now. But you got a lot of other cities that are in line before Mexico. Would it be nice to have a team in Mexico? Probably. I don't know what the lifestyle is off the field in Mexico. I don't know how well our guys would do in Mexico. Because there's a lot of issues and situations that you hear in the news. I'm not really familiar with it in person or know much about it, but you hear about a lot of things down there that could be kind of a little scary for our guys if they don't know Mexico very well. They could end up in some of the wrong places. You could end up in some of the wrong places here, but at least we would be able to speak the language and understand, hey, we are in a bad place right now. Because guys like to go out, they like to enjoy life, they like to take their families out. And when they hear about a place that they might believe could be a good time out, they'll go. Um, but if you don't speak the language, I think that kind of would have you moving without really knowing how you're moving, if you get what I'm saying. If I go to Nashville and they say, hey, B, you don't want to go down to such and such because this is what's up. And I know not to go down there. And then I can read a sign that tells me I must be in this area. You see what I'm saying? But if I can't speak the language, I missed the wrong turn, I don't know where I am, I could be in trouble. And hopefully I'm not saying that to be um, negative about a certain type of place or certain people or certain whatever. I'm just saying that because it happened to me in Detroit. I never told you about the Detroit thing, but I would tell you now. We were playing, I was with the Tigers. We were playing the Toronto Blue Jays, and my former teammate Joe Carter was on that team. And I lived out in Dearborn, where the hotel was, where the Blue Jays stayed. So after the game, I said, Joe, hey, man, ride with me, and I'll drop you off at the hotel. He's like, all right, okay, man, I'll meet you after the game. And so we jump into my rental car. And me being new to Detroit, not knowing Detroit, I jump on the freeway, and I realize that freeway is not going to take me to Dearborn. It's taking me, instead of going, I guess, north, it's taking me east because it's all of a sudden a turn and it's going east. And I'm thinking, where am I going? So I get off the freeway. And here in California, if I get off the freeway, I could go into the gas station because we didn't have GPS and all that back then. I could go into a gas station and I could ask for directions. So I see a gas station, a light looks like it's on. I stop, I get out. And before you know it, this guy jumped from behind the tank where you pump your gas, the gas tank. He jumped from behind there. And he's just looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And he's looking at me, looking at him, and I'm looking at him, looking at me. And because I'm from East Oakland, my instincts kicked in. Robber. uh-oh. And I just got into this kind of position where I turned sideways, and I just kept turning sideways as I moved back to the car. And I'm real low to the ground, and I'm moving side. And he just stood there in the dark. I said, oh my goodness. I got back in the car, and Joe said, man, what was that? I said, man, I don't know, man. He just jumped out from behind the gas pump. And I got in that car and burnt gas, burnt rubber. We got up out of there. See, I didn't know where I was. Later, I talked to one of my buddies in Detroit. He said, man, that's where the jackers happen. The jackers hang out at the gas station. I didn't know that. Joe and I were lucky. We were very lucky. Nothing happened to us. This is why I say, you got to know where you're going. Because if not, you could get caught up. And now you hear about 2 baseball players getting hurt, or the worst could possibly happen. So I'm glad it didn't happen. I got him to Dearborn and to the hotel, and we laughed about it later. But as you can see, I never forgot about that. So, hey, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to close out. You listen to Bips Blips on the Mic'd Up app. Hey, thank you guys for holding in there. This is Bip Roberts, former major leaguer. We're on the Mic'd Up app. We're sitting here on Bips Blips on a Monday afternoon, May 1st, 2023. And right now, when we look at the MLB schedule, you got Chicago at Washington, Cleveland at New York, Toronto and Boston. Those games are on right now. You got San Francisco at Houston, Cincinnati at San Diego, Philly at LA. You had Atlanta and the Mets playing a doubleheader today, and they split that. Mets won the second one 5-3. Atlanta won the first one 9-8. That was a good ball game. So my A's go again tomorrow. Seattle comes in town. That should be a good one. We got Mason Miller. Mason Miller is a guy they brought up from AAA. Throws 100. Good slider. His kid is good, man. Here's a kid that had to battle stage 1 diabetes. And once he figured it out, his body grew. I think he was throwing the low 90s while he was going through stage 1. And once they figured out what he should do in the regimen, and how he should come out of it, and the program they put him on, he went from throwing 91, 92 to 100 miles an hour. So Mason Miller is a guy you want to check out tomorrow. They play Seattle. Seattle's a good hitting team. And I think that's going to be a good test for him to face a team like Seattle. So I'll be out there. So I'm always out at the game. And that's before I have class and a test tomorrow. So I need to relax before that test tomorrow. If you don't know, I'm in the Rock School of Ministry, and it's a 2-year program. I graduate in December. So if you guys want to come and celebrate my graduation with me, I'll be at the Well Church in December. I'll keep you notified. All right. So, hey, thanks for joining in. This is your boy Bipster. We'll see you next week. And God bless.